My name is Lou, and what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to talk about a few things here in the museum, which is this area that you see around you. We're going to talk about a little bit about our history of this company. We're going to talk about what makes up beer, what the main ingredients are. And we're going to talk about the brewing process as we go into the brewery. I'm going to point out a few machines that are in there, and then we're going to go to the beer tasting there at the end, which is why many of you are here shooting. So we'll go ahead and get started. This building opened in 2003. It's actually an old shop and save. I don't know if you can tell by looking at the facade of the building, but it looks like there used to be like an Aldi's or a Big Lots or something here. But it was shop and save. They moved about a block away or so and sold us their old building. In fact, when we go into the brewery, you might still see some shopping carts back there. They write their names on and stuff like that. Of course, our company is older than just this building. The first building that was open was the tap room downtown in 1991. Anyone been there before? Yep. If you haven't been there, I encourage you to go, not just because I want to be a company man or anything like that, partially because of it. The tap room is it's a brew pub. It's much smaller than this facility, and it is a place where you can get small batches of beer that are probably pretty unique to just that building. A lot of them you can't even get here at Bottleworks. So it's almost like our pilot brewery, if you want to think of it like that, or Brewer's Playground. They use it to kind of test out batches to see if they'll catch on in other places. At one point in time, though, that was our only brewery. So for about the first 5 years that the company was in operation, they were producing beer on site just to be consumed there at the tap room. But as demand for our beer grew, we decided we wanted to bottle the beer. And what we ended up doing was in 1994-95, we were doing what's called contract brewing. There's a brewery up in Minnesota called August Shell that was picking up our slack for a couple of years until this building opened in 2002-2003. So this is very much our main brewery. Basically everything you're going to find in a grocery store, with a few minor exceptions, notably those big wine bottles. Those are made down at the tap room. But most everything is made here, as well as anything you're going to find on draft in the bar. To give you some perspective on that, we did 30,000 barrels worth of beer last year, and a barrel is 31 gallons of beer. Only 1,500 of those were done at the tap room. The rest of them were made here. So this is definitely the main producer of our company. Of course, there is another brewery in this city of some noteworthiness, and that 30,000 barrel a year figure that I mentioned, they can do that in about 3 hours. So it was never our intention at any point to compete directly with Anheuser-Busch. They are, 20-some odd years after this company has started. They're, beating us in a fourth of a day for our entire annual capacity. So what we do is we make a lot of different kinds of beer. There's about 150 or so uniquely identifiable beers in the world. We pride ourselves on the fact that we make a good chunk of those. We are what's called a craft brewery. Anyone know what that means? Anyone heard that term before? Basically all it means is brewers like us, we make traditional styles of beer, styles that were popular before the light lagers took over about 100 years ago. So we're talking your pale ales, your porters, your IPAs, and so forth. We also make kind of new, modern twists on those older European styles of beer. For instance, we make a dry hop APA and we make a raspberry Hefeweizen. So these are the type of beers that we're talking about. We used to be called microbreweries, I'll in a second. In some cases you still hear that term, but if you look at some of the large craft breweries out there, such as Boston Beer Company, Sierra Nevada, New Belgium, the real big guys, they ship beer all over the world. all over the country and so forth. It's kind of silly to call them a microbrewery. So basically, that's where that comes from. Yes.
Am I remembering correctly that you're the brewery that did the Papal Porter when the Pope visited 11 years ago? Because it was only brewed one time, and I mean it went very quickly. And I'm thinking it was Schlafly that did the Papal Porter.
I don't know off the top of my head. I can find somebody that might know the answer that was around back then. I certainly was not, but that sounds like something we could do. So, but I don't know for sure. I don't want to tell you something that isn't true. So, get with me when we're in the crown room.
Yeah.
Tastings, and I'll figure it out for you. Anyone else? All right. So that's a little bit about our company and what we do. Questions about that before we talk about something else? All right. What I'm going to do now is talk about what the main ingredients of beer are. Starting right here, I'm going to quiz you periodically on my tours. It's not because I hate you. It's because I like to get a kind of sense of where the beer knowledge is at in a brew. So, starting right now, there are 4 main ingredients of beer that make up basically every style of beer in the world. What are they?
Water.
Water is one. Grain. Wheat can be a grain. Generally, we're talking about barley. But wheat is a beer often. It's true. Hops. Water. Heard water. Missing the microorganism. Fermentation.
Yeast.
Yeast. Very good. So I'll elaborate on a little bit of those just a bit. Water is the basis of beer, of course. Without it, beer is like a pile of grains and such. It's a sour, basically. So the quality of your water is going to be very important in determining the quality of your beer. If your water smells like a swimming pool, your beer is going to smell like a swimming pool. So, water in St. Louis is fairly neutral. There isn't a great, strong chlorine smell coming off the water. And that's true for a number of reasons. But when we get the water here, we don't have to do a tremendous amount to it to get it ready for brewing. The pH in St. Louis water tends to be a little alkaline, so we'll add a little bit of acid to get that down to make it more neutral. Beyond that, we'll add things called brewer's salts, and those are minerals used to approximate the flavor of water in other parts of the world. So I'll give you an example. We make an English pale ale. The water in England is very mineral, so in order to get our water kind of tasting like their water, we'll add some of these chemicals. But beyond that, we're not importing glaciated water or anything silly like that. We are just using tap water.
Now, have you noticed a difference between the beers that you have here that are also in the tap room? Because it seems like a lot of times if you move from one part of the city to another, even when you use the same ratios, the water can be a little bit different. Did you have to do any kind of adjustments between the two?
To make the product as consistent as possible in every place where we serve the beer, including in other bars. That's very, very important to us. So, no, I haven't personally noticed a difference between the two. As far as the water quality from one facility to the next, I don't know off the top of my head. But in either case, they're prepping it the same way.
Okay.
And getting the pH down to 7 and making sure the mineral content is appropriate. So, other questions? All right. This is barley, which is the main grain used in beer. This is malted barley. It's the process that these grains have been subjected to. Anyone familiar with the malting process? Basic idea what's going on. That's all right. I'm going to tell you anyway. These are barley kernels that I'm spilling on the floor, and they're soaked in water until they germinate. They're going to grow a plant. And then that process is halted. It's halted by a kilning process. And that's done for a variety of different reasons. Primarily what we're trying to do is that there are starch reserves locked up in these kernels that are used to feed the plant. So as the seeds germinate from soaking in water, those starch reserves are released. And that means we can get at them later on for fermentation. We convert them into sugars during the mashing process, which we'll talk about in the beginning of the brewery. And then during fermentation, we produce alcohol and carbon dioxide. So that's kind of the Cliff Notes version of some science that's driving the brewing process.